Imagine waking up long before sunrise deep inside a cold concrete bunker, carved into the cliffs of the northern French coast. There is no soft light, no comfort, no sense of morning as you would normally know it. Only darkness, broken by the faint glow of dim military lamps and the occasional flicker of movement as other soldiers shift in their sleep or stand watch in silence. The air is heavy, damp. It smells of wet concrete, rusted metal, old sweat, and the sea just beyond the walls. That sea is close, you can hear it constantly, but it feels distant at the same time, as if it belongs to another world. You're a German soldier stationed along the Atlantic Wall. For months, you have been told the same thing over and over again. This coastline is unbreakable. Fortified bunkers stretch from Norway to France. Gun emplacements, minefields, barbed wire, obstacles in the water, everything designed to stop an invasion before it even begins. And yet, over the past week, something has felt different. More aircraft in the sky, more patrol alerts at night, more tension in orders, even when commanders try to hide it. Nobody says it out loud, but everyone feels it. Something is coming. Still, nothing has happened. Not yet. So the waiting continues. Inside the bunker, time moves strangely. There is no real day or night anymore. Only shifts, alarms, and long stretches of silence broken by distant explosions from training exercises or Allied probing attacks along the coast. Some men try to sleep whenever they can. Others clean their rifles again and again, even when there is nothing wrong with them. A few sit quietly, staring at the wall as if trying to disappear into it. No one speaks much, not because there is nothing to say, but because everything that needs to be said has already been said too many times. Then, slowly, the night begins to change. It is still dark outside, but something feels wrong in the air. Not loud at first, just a vibration, a distant pressure that seems to come from the ocean itself. At first it could be dismissed. The sea is never truly silent. Wind, waves, weather. It all blends together. But this is different. It grows steadily, like something massive moving just beyond perception. You step closer to an observation slit in the bunker wall. The horizon is still dark, but not empty. Shapes begin to appear. Small at first, then more and more. Ships, not a few, not a patrol. An entire fleet stretching across the ocean so far that it becomes impossible to tell where it ends. For a moment, your mind struggles to process what you're seeing. It feels unreal. Too large, too organized, too late to be stopped by anything you can imagine from where you stand. Then the alarms begin. Not one, many. Echoing through the defensive positions along the coast. Sirens, shouted commands, runners moving between bunkers. The Atlantic Wall is waking up, but not in preparation, in response. Orders come quickly now. Move to positions, prepare weapons, report sightings. Everything becomes sharper, faster, more urgent. But even as you move, there is a growing sense that preparation no longer matters in the way it used to. Because now the sky's changing. At first you hear it before you see it. A low, distant roar. Then another, and another. Aircraft. Dozens at first, then hundreds. The sky fills with movement so dense it feels like the air itself is being torn apart. Bombers pass overhead in waves, followed by fighter escorts, then more bombers again. And then the explosions begin. Not random, systematic. The coastline erupts under sustained bombardment. Artillery positions, communication bunkers, road junctions, supply depots, everything becomes a target. The ground shakes violently. Dust and debris fall from the bunker ceiling. Small cracks begin to form in the concrete as repeated shock waves travel through the structure. Outside, the world disappears into fire and smoke. Inside, everything becomes noise. Commands are shouted but often lost. Orders are repeated but not always understood. Radios crackle with fragmented messages that cut in and out, broken by interference and destruction. You are ordered to your firing position. Your body moves automatically. Training takes over where thought struggles to keep up. But even as you take position, something inside you is shifting. Not panic yet, not fully. Something more like disbelief that refuses to collapse into action. Then comes the sea again. Through the smoke along the horizon, movement appears. Landing craft. So many that the ocean seems to have become solid with them. Rows and rows advancing toward the shore, steady and unbroken, despite everything being thrown at them. This is no longer a distant threat. This is arrival. Orders come down. Open fire. The weapon in your hands feels familiar, mechanical, controlled. It does not care what is happening outside the bunker. It only responds to action. You fire. Once. Twice. Again. The recoil is sharp, repetitive. The rhythm quickly becomes automatic. Aim, fire, adjust, fire again. But there are too many targets, too much motion, too much distance between what you can do and what is actually happening. The shoreline is no longer a clear defensive line. It is chaos layered over chaos. Smoke, fire, movement, explosions, screams carried by wind and distance. Time begins to distort. Seconds stretch unnaturally. Minutes feel disconnected from each other. There is no longer a sense of progression, only moments of action separated by bursts of noise. Around you, other positions are firing as well. Some coordinated, some not, some already silent. The structure of defense that once felt solid is beginning to fracture. Not all at once, piece by piece. A radio stops working. A nearby position falls silent. A runner does not return. An officer's voice becomes strained, then uncertain, then lost in the noise. But the fighting continues regardless. The beach below becomes a landscape of destruction. Craters fill with water and debris. Obstacles meant to stop landings are destroyed or pushed aside. Smoke hangs so thick that visibility collapses into fragments, and still more landing craft arrive. More soldiers disembark. More movement pushes inland. By midday, the sense of control has almost completely dissolved. What remains is fragmented resistance, isolated positions continuing to fire without coordination, reacting only to what is immediately visible. The Atlantic Wall, once described as a continuous fortress, now exists only in pieces. Inside the bunker, exhaustion begins to set in. Not just physical exhaustion, but mental fatigue, the kind that comes from sustained chaos with no clear resolution. Every sound becomes harder to process. Every order takes longer to understand. Every moment feels heavier than the last. The air inside the bunker grows warmer, thicker. Smoke seeps in through openings. Dust coats uniforms, weapons, skin. Outside, the bombardment shifts but does not stop. The invasion continues to expand inland. New positions are engaged. Old positions fall silent. There is no moment of clarity where everything becomes understandable. Only continuation, only survival. By the afternoon, the coastline is almost unrecognizable compared to the morning. What was once a defensive system is now a battlefield consumed by overlapping layers of conflict. And yet, the Allied advance does not slow. It spreads, systematically, relentlessly. What becomes clear, slowly but inevitably, is that this is not a raid, not a distraction, not a probe. It is a full-scale invasion. D-Day is unfolding not as a single battle, but as the beginning of something far larger, something that will stretch across months, years, and ultimately determine the outcome of the war in Western Europe. As the day continues, the intensity of immediate bombardment begins to fluctuate. Some areas see brief reductions in fire, others are hit again with renewed force. There is no uniform pattern, only shifting pressure across the coastline. For those still inside defensive positions, the experience becomes increasingly difficult to separate into meaningful events. Everything blends together: noise, movement, orders, silence, action. Eventually, even the idea of time begins to lose structure. There is only now, and the next moment, and the one after that. By late afternoon, the Atlantic Wall has been breached in multiple locations. Defensive coordination has broken down. Communication lines are unreliable or destroyed. Reinforcements are limited and scattered. Some positions continue fighting with discipline intact. Others fight in isolation. Some are no longer able to fight at all. And through it all, the invasion continues to grow. What began before dawn as a distant disturbance on the horizon has become one of the largest amphibious assaults in history. The day does not end with a conclusion. It ends with continuation, with uncertainty, with the understanding that whatever happens next will not be separate from what has already occurred. but part of a longer, larger unfolding event that has only just begun. And as night eventually begins to approach again, the battlefield does not fall silent. It simply changes shape. If you found this video interesting and want to see more immersive historical stories like this one, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps support the channel and allows more videos like this to be made. And one quick note before you go. While this story is based on the events of June 6, 1944, some of the footage used in this video is not actual combat footage from D-Day itself. Certain clips show soldiers training and preparing in the weeks and months leading up to the invasion. These scenes are included to help illustrate what military life and preparation looked like during that period. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video.